A big thank you to everyone for gathering today for this very important presentation. Superintendent Carr, Assistant Superintendent Robert Martin, Doris Leboldis Campbell, Lucille Chadois, Sergeant M. Chan, Sergeant Mark Parr, Manager Michelle Filion, members of the SRO units and stay teams from across Edmonton, community members from AHS, and families who have been deeply affected by the loss that fentanyl creates. The student body of Mother Margaret Mary High School, we're here today to build the collective understanding of the devastating effects of this drug. And we're doing it because you matter to us. Because we need you to hear that our world is better with you in it. And a small decision could change that. So as we listen intently, reflect on what is being said, and understand that you matter. Please help me to welcome Constable Sherry Jerebick from Harry Ainley and our very own Constable Brandon Meyer.
All right. I want to thank you guys for all coming today. So we're going to talk to you about fentanyl. I know a lot of you maybe have seen my presentation last year on this topic. Today's presentation is going to be a little bit different. It's similar to that one last year, but we're going to make this very real. We're bringing it home to Edmonton. In our presentation, we're going to be talking about stories about families and people that have been affected by fentanyl poisoning right here in Edmonton. So if any time throughout the presentation something gets a little too serious or you need just to take a break, you can go on out, take a break, get a glass of water, and then quietly come back in, okay? So, what is fentanyl? So it's a synthetic opiate narcotic, okay? It was created in the 1960s, and it's used in hospitals for surgeries. What happens is that doctors, trained doctors, administer 250 micrograms of this drug to patients, and then they perform surgeries on the patients. What it does is it stops the lungs, which in turn stops the heart so that they can go in and perform these surgeries. Now, during these surgeries, these patients are hooked up to a variety of machines that are keeping these people alive, okay? Now, you might ask, well, why is this now hitting our streets? Okay, we're going to talk about that in a little bit. Fentanyl comes in many forms, okay? It comes in powders, patches, and liquids. The powders are used to press into pills, and that's what we're finding in the street drugs today, okay? The patches are given to long-term cancer patients who are suffering from pain, and they need this drug to just cope with the pain, all right? And then the liquids are used in hospitals like we talked about earlier for the surgeries. With those patches, a quick story here. So a grandmother who's suffering from cancer, so she's in a lot of pain, she has a prescription for these patches. All right, so what she would basically do is put it onto her arm, and then when it was used up, she would take it off and throw it away. Well, one of her patches was left lying out. Okay, so when she left it lying out, unfortunately, her 2-year-old grandson rolled onto the patch, and he ended up dying from this fentanyl poisoning. So what happens now is in Ontario, they have a patch for patch program, which basically means that when these patients go in, they get their prescription, they have to then, on a piece of paper, when they take the patch off, they stick the patch onto that piece of paper, take the new patch on, put it onto the arm, okay, so that we stop this from happening again. So, earlier I talked about 250 micrograms, okay, that's kind of a weird thing to talk about. I'm not the best at science and biology and all that stuff, so I kind of needed to understand what 250 micrograms is. Okay, 250 micrograms is the size of 2 granules of salt, 2 grains of salt. That is all that it takes to kill you. Okay, if 2 granules of salt of fentanyl goes into your system, your lungs will stop, your heart will stop, and you will die. Okay? Fentanyl is, as it says here, 50 to 100 times more toxic than heroin, OxyContin, and morphine. All right? So, our first story here today. This is Kyle. Okay? Kyle was from Edmonton, born and raised in Edmonton. He died February 4th, 2016 from fentanyl overdose. Kyle loved to play hockey. He played for 13 years, and he was a master chess player as well. So he was very smart. He graduated from Austin O'Brien High School, and during that time, though, he struggled with some mental health issues, and unfortunately, his grandfather passed away. And this just bore too much for him to handle. So he turned to street pills that were unknowingly laced with fentanyl. This made him dependent, and he became addicted to fentanyl, okay? Later in his life, he decided that he was going to clean up, so he became clean for 3 months. He unfortunately relapsed one time. One time he relapsed, and during that time, he took one pill, or half of a pill. So he decided, I'm going to take half a pill, and unfortunately, that pill was laced with fentanyl, and his tolerance was much lower. So he ended up dying from this one relapse. This picture here, I don't know if you guys can see this clearly, but this picture here on the left is a fentanyl lab that was found here in Edmonton. So this is here in our city, okay? And I don't know about you guys, but this does not seem very sanitary to me. This is what drug dealers, this is where they're mixing, this is how they're creating the pills or lacing it into other street drugs that you have. If you look clearly here, you can see a container that they're mixing the powder in with a spoon, with a kitchen spoon. Okay, not very sanitary. You don't know what's in these drugs. So we often talk about who likes chocolate chip cookies. Put up your hand if you like chocolate chip cookies. Right? Pretty much everyone. Is every chocolate chip cookie that you eat the same? Does it have the same amount of chocolate chips in each cookie? No. Okay? And that's the same thing as with these pills. Unfortunately, you're not knowing how much fentanyl is being put into these pills or how much fentanyl is being put into these drugs. Okay? And that's the problem that we're seeing. So you don't know, just like the chocolate chips in a cookie, you don't know how much these granules of salt, these granules of fentanyl are being put into these pills.
Okay, so I'm just going to jump back on the chocolate chip cookie, since I know everybody here's probably had one. If you were to think of the chocolate chips as fentanyl, right? Those are little chunks of fentanyl throughout the cookie. When you pull into yourself and you go into a chocolate chip bag, so we're going to get one that's made in a controlled environment, like Dad's oatmeal chocolate chip cookies. So I'm going to reach into this bag, pull out 2 cookies. Do they have the same amount of chocolate chips? No. Do we wish they did? Absolutely, but they don't. Let's just take one of those. If I crack it in half, are there the same amount of chocolate chips on each side? No, there's not. So you have to think, those are like the hot spots. So when you have these people who are in the street and they're making street drugs and pressing pills, there's hot spots throughout everything that they're making because they're not in controlled environments. So what's happening there, like in Ryan's case, he thought he'd be safe with a half a pill, thinking, you know what, I'm not going to do a whole one, that's kind of crazy, over the top, I'm going to be safe and just do a half. I'm letting you know, out of the pills that we're seizing here in Edmonton, some of the pills that we've tested have 1,000 micrograms. That's 4 times the lethal dose. Others, we're all the way up to 4,000 micrograms of fentanyl. So even by breaking it in half, thinking, just going to be safe, you're not safe. You have no idea where the hot spots are within that pill or with anything you're consuming. You have no idea. You can't see it, you can't taste it, you can't smell it. It's there and you would have no idea. So let's look at fentanyl deaths, and this is in Alberta. When we started tracking back in 2012, we had 34. Then it jumps up, we have 91, 120, 274. Just in the last year of 2016, we're up to 368 fentanyl deaths just here in Alberta. Now the stats from January 1st to May 13th of 2017, we are already at 176. We are well over a death a day right here in Alberta. This isn't BC, this isn't the States, it's not somewhere in Toronto, this is happening right here, right where we live. Okay, so you never really know what you're getting when you take street drugs. Who knows a drug dealer you can trust? I've never met a drug dealer I can trust. Absolutely not. If you're, I know you're laughing here, right? I've never met one. So let's think of it this way. I'm pretty sure that all of you parents had talks in regards to alcohol, right? What do your parents say? Put up your hand. What do your parents say when it comes to drinking alcohol? Open your own drinks. Don't take something that's been opened. If you're out and partying, watch your drink, take care of it. If you leave it unattended, don't go back and drink it. Is that fair? Is that what you've been told? Okay. What have your parents told you about drugs? Don't do it. Okay, we're not helping you out here. I'm a parent. We have lots of parents in this room. Let's be realistic. We're going to give you now a different message than just don't do it. Here we go. So let's go back. Got an open water bottle here. You drink it? No. It's been opened, hey? Do you know where it came from? Right. So, of course, anybody here? Anybody would drink this one? No. So let's say if I go to Costco and I bring out a big giant pack of water bottles, I open it up and I start handing them out. Who would take one? I would. I saw that it was sealed, came from a package, came from somewhere pretty much new. There's labels on every single thing that says where it was made, where it was packaged, everything. If anything is wrong with this, we know who to go back to. So everybody would take this. Now think of street drugs. Do you know where they were made? No, usually not. Do you know from the source of where it was developed, through how many hands it got to before it ended up being offered to you? No. Most of the time, when we find street drugs, they're in like pill bottles with no labels on them. People are pulling out Ziploc bags, everything like that. You have no idea. Then they're all mixed, they're all touching each other, and then people are offering them up. So we're letting you know, just like everything else, when you use it or you consume it or you get off a friend, make sure everything is packaged and sealed, comes from a reliable source, and if it's yours or from a doctor, make sure it's in your name, the prescription's assigned to you. Don't start taking things from other people. Okay, so drug dealers sell fentanyl as fake oxys, but they also add it into other street drugs. So here in Edmonton, I can tell you we have found fentanyl in marijuana, heroin, coke, ecstasy, even caffeine and Viagra. It has been found in everything. I'm not saying every single thing out there has it in it, but we have tested so many different street drugs that we have at some point in time found fentanyl, whether it was intentional or not, laced within these drugs. Okay, here's some nicknames, and honestly, if you see that we're missing some, let us know, update it, all right? So what we have right now is fake oxys, Fenties, Pebbles, Shady 80s, beans, green beans, apples, gems, China White, Goodfellas. So if you were looking at taking any type of drugs off the street, these are some of the ones that we've seized right here in Edmonton or Calgary. So we're now finding, like this, stickers that have fentanyl on the backs of them on the sticky side. We have on the bottom left there, there's, it's called Pebbles. So it's actually heroin laced with fentanyl, intentionally, it's in there. And the top, we can have pills in any shape or form. When it comes to pill presses, they can make it any color. They can put any neat little logo on it. They can have one for your school. They can have one with Superman, you name it. They can make it look like anything. They can make them look very professional, that you would think that it's a prescription pill and safe to take. We're here to tell you they're not safe.
Okay, so this is Anthony, all right? Anthony's father here, Reg, posted this to Facebook. Okay, this picture here. This is the quality of life that Anthony is having now today. All right? Anthony, normal night, goes to bed, says goodnight, mom and dad, goes to bed. The next morning, dad's like, Anthony's not awake. Usually, he's up for us, he's getting ready, that kind of stuff. So Anthony's dad, Reg, goes upstairs to wake up Anthony, finds him in his bed, unconscious, what he thought was dead. So he calls 911, gets 911 there, gets an ambulance there, and they take him off to the hospital. Amazingly, he survived. But he has severe brain damage from what we found out through looking through text messages is that he texted someone to go and buy weed. He wanted to buy some marijuana. But the drug dealer said, sorry man, I'm out of marijuana, but I do have oxys. Do you want to buy some of those? So Anthony thought, well, okay, oxys don't sound too bad, so I'll try it. Unfortunately, those oxys that he tried that one time were laced with fentanyl. And this is the reality that he's living now today. So you might ask, if this is such a death drug, because that's the nickname that we have for it, then why are drug dealers selling this to people? Why are they putting this into drugs? It's quite simple, actually. Because fentanyl gives a different kind of high to the buyer. And they experience that, and they become highly addicted to that drug, okay? They also make it quite expensive. So for people that are going and they want to buy this drug, they go out, they get high, they get addicted to it, and they keep coming back until they don't, okay? So next we have Lindsay. Okay, Lindsay was a mother, and unfortunately throughout her life, we have a recurring thing here. She was suffering from depression, all right, and unfortunately, going to the doctor, that kind of stuff, it wasn't helping. So she decided to start self-medicating on street drugs, non-prescription drugs. Okay, this happened over a span of 6 weeks. Okay, she wasn't a long-time drug, habit, nothing like that. This was 6 weeks. Then she moved to meth. And on that time where she did some meth, it was also laced with fentanyl, and she ended up dying. So now her 4-year-old son is left without a mother.
All right, next up we have Ryder Hussey, and he was 18. This young man, he has only lived in Canada for a couple of years. He moved here from the UK with his mom about 3.5 years ago. Here's a unique story. In regards to Ryder, he was a fantastic outgoing guy. He played rugby, he was amazing. His mom was like his best friend. They came here together, they told each other everything. They knew what was going on. Stereotypical teenager too. They did have, the usual things that happen throughout high school. But all in all, they had a really good relationship. He wasn't a drug user by any means, just maybe the odd time here or there, but nothing serious. Well, on December 22nd, his mom, Jennifer, she was out at work. And in a conversation she had, because she had just finished doing some Christmas shopping, she had things going on, she joked with him, hey, no sneaking in my room and taking a peek at the presents, all this kind of stuff. So it was pretty funny. They were laughing, jovial, everything was great. So later that day when she came home from work, completely shocked, she found her son Ryder dead. And it was completely unexpected. Here's somebody who was not a heavy drug user, didn't even really know what the heck happened. And this just, came upon her. She was not prepared. Nobody's prepared for this. None of these parents that we have here and have shared their stories were prepared, along with the people taking the drugs. They were thinking they were getting something to get a quick high, quick fix, just something little. And in the end, the drugs that they chose, like Ryder in this case, the one-time deal cost him his life. So there's different types of fentanyl, a part of this fentanyl family. Next thing we have up is W18. Anybody here heard about W18? Yeah, so we had some big buzz about that. It was developed in 1981, right here at the U of A, and the intentions of this one was to create something like fentanyl, which is a painkiller, but to make it less addictive, because people using fentanyl got addicted, and it was hard to get them off. It was an opiate. Whereas if they can create something that the addiction was low, but still had the same effects to use for painkillers, that'd be awesome. Unfortunately, when they started developing this at the U of A, when they did the tests on lab rats, they died instantly. They couldn't keep the rats alive, so there is no true human trials or anything in regards to W18 because it was so toxic that it killed anything live instantly that they just had a patent on it and shelved it. They couldn't use it. 30 years later, unfortunately, China went through expired patents, started creating this drug in a powdered form, and started distributing it. So this is about 100 times more toxic than fentanyl, which is 1,000 times more toxic than morphine. Next up is carfentanil. This one here is 1,000 times more toxic. 1,000. The initial reason for having this drug was to take down large animals and tranquilize them. So we're talking about like rhinoceroses or elephants, something huge, massive, weighing thousands of pounds. Unfortunately, what has happened is this now, like fentanyl, started getting into our drug world on the street. So some person unfortunately decided that they were going to now take carfentanil and put it and press it into street pills. We don't have stats on this. We didn't use it on humans, this was used on animals. So if I'm telling you at 250 micrograms of fentanyl, you have maybe 2 minutes to live, carfentanil, you might be looking at seconds. In Alberta, we have had carfentanil deaths. We have. So in total for 2016, we've had 32 carfentanil deaths. Now, from January 1st to May 13 of 2017, we are already sitting at 34 deaths due to carfentanil. We may have had more because carfentanil, it only gets tested in 5 labs throughout Canada. So after we became aware and found out that this was in street drugs, we started testing the blood from those people differently. And now we're already within the first 20 weeks sitting at 34 deaths. This is Matthew Whelan, and he's 23 years old when he died. Matthew, anybody hear this story? Family was on the news earlier in this month. No? Okay. Matthew, once again, fantastic young person. He had everything going for him. He's born here. He's raised in Edmonton with his family and his parents and his siblings. Had everything going for him. Fantastic guy. Then mental health started coming into it, unfortunately, and he started using drugs. In grade 9 is where he started. Grade 9, one of his friends came to school with a bunch of Oxycontin that belonged to one of their dads. And they decided as a group, hey, this would be pretty neat. Let's just try it for kicks, see what's gonna happen. That was the start of the end for Matthew. He started Oxycontin, which is an opiate, got addicted, and started using all the time. From there, he went on to use other opiates and got addicted to fentanyl. He battled and battled. He wanted a better life. He was tired of relying on fentanyl just to make it through his day. He couldn't handle it. Then eventually he goes and says, okay, he went to his parents, he's now ready. He needs the help, he wants the help, he wants to be with his girlfriend, he wants to have a job, he wants to go back to school. He had all these things that he wanted to do and get his life changed around. He wished he never ever took that pill of Oxycontin to start in grade 9. So his parents helped him out and they did everything they could for him. And he went to a wilderness addiction center, pretty amazing place. He was clean for 3 months. He earned himself a weekend pass away from home. Fantastic, here he is, feeling good, success. It's right there, he's got it right in his hands. He comes back to Edmonton to visit his family for the weekend. And when he was here, unfortunately, he was kind of feeling a little edgy. He's now out, he's in an uncontrolled environment, back in the city. So he decided he's gonna get some drugs, but he knew he didn't want to start fentanyl again. He knew that. So he's thinking, okay, what else could I get? So for Matthew, he decided he was gonna try some cocaine. So on his own, here he goes. He gets some cocaine for the night. He ends up using it, and it was laced with fentanyl. In the end, he ended up dying. What happens here is, when you are an addict, your tolerance goes up. But then when you become clean, it drops, way lower than where you even started. And for Matthew, he had no idea there was fentanyl in the cocaine he was using. So maybe before, with that amount, he would have survived. But this time, he had no idea it was in there, used it, and he died of a fentanyl poisoning. This was something his dad had wrote. So think of this, when you decide to use street drugs, it's not just you that you're affecting. You have people here, your friends that are around you who know you, hang out with you every day, look forward to texting, chatting with you. You have your family at home, you have your mom, your dad, you may have your siblings, your grandmas, grandpas, all these people who look forward to having you in their lives. And this is what Kim Whelan had to say. I'm really having a hard time. I don't cry every day, but I used to. So I'm getting through. I know Matthew is not struggling anymore, and as much as it kills us, I think it bothered him more than anybody that he couldn't stop.
All right. So, touching on that, everyone here is a son, a daughter, a brother, a sister. Everyone, and we'll talk about this in a bit, but everyone here is someone's someone, okay? We're going to talk about that in a little bit. But for this next story that I'm going to talk about, this is Kaylia, okay? I want you to picture yourself in her mother's shoes, all right? Kaylia had everything going for her. She was 19 years old, and in that time, she had a job. She worked and volunteered with the Ronald McDonald House. She's been to 18 countries. She loved horse riding, all right? And she was a good student. Now, unfortunately, during her senior year at school, she had a falling out with some friends over a boy. Okay? So she was no longer friends with the people that she grew up with. No longer friends with those influences that she had, those good influences in her life. And unfortunately, bad influences surrounded her, and those became her new best friends. She ended up starting out small. She started smoking marijuana recreationally with friends at parties, that kind of stuff. But then over time, she moved to harder drugs. After a family vacation, the family came back, thought everything was okay, we're kind of getting back on track. You know, they hadn't noticed a dip in her grades or anything like that. Family goes out to their son's football game. When they came home, Kaylia had unexpectedly moved out. Gone. She vanished from the house. Over the next year, she couch surfed on friends' couches and was surrounded by those people, again, those bad influences. She started using heroin. So she moved from marijuana over a span of a year, and now she started using heroin. Okay, so very strong, dangerous drug. She then reached out to her mom for help. Mom says, Kate, fine, we'll get you your help. So she goes into a 10-day youth rehab program, and things were looking up. Mom gets her an apartment. They find her a good roommate so she can have a good, strong influence to be there for her, be a good friend for her, and everything was going good. Unfortunately, some of those old influences came back into her life. One night, on November 23rd, she called her mom. They were having a conversation. You know, they were talking about mom was going out to a charity fundraiser that night. So Kaylia was giving her mom some makeup tips, you know, doing what girls do. And said, "Okay, I'll see you tomorrow. We'll meet up tomorrow." That evening, Kaylia, again, bad influence came around to the house. They went inside and out, kind of smoking marijuana, smoking cigarettes, that kind of stuff. All of a sudden, the text messages to mom stopped. Mom wakes up in the morning, texts her, "Okay, what time am I picking you up?" No reply. Okay, calls her, no reply. So mom's starting to get a little panicked. So she drives over there as calmly as she can. When she gets there, she doesn't know the door code to get into the apartment building. So she goes around, it's a basement suite that she was in. She goes around and looks through Kaylia's basement window and sees her lying on her bed, candles lit, looks like she's having a nice little sleep. So she quietly knocks on the window, hoping to arouse her, wake her up. Nothing happened. Starts banging more frantically, she's starting to get more panicked. Nothing. She was banging so hard that someone living in the building heard her, came down, and let her into the suite, and she was unfortunately deceased. Later, an autopsy showed that Kaylia died from, there was a small little bit of a white pill left on her dresser, and it was later determined that this white pill had carfentanil in it. And she ended up dying from this carfentanil poisoning through her drug use the previous night. So again, this is a sad story about a female that was going on the right track. She was getting back onto the track, and unfortunately, one mistake cost her life. This is the biggest message that I want to get across to you guys, okay? And you all know me here. I talk to you guys daily, and I'm very open with you guys. Today is a different world. You guys are playing Russian roulette when you're using these drugs. All right? You do not know what's in them. You do not know who made them, who produced them, who packaged them, how many people it's been passed through to get to you. And that's why this is so serious to me. Okay? And we're going to talk about this one story next. I'm going to try and get through it. My partner might have to jump in for me. Okay. Who recognizes this young man? If you recognize him, can you please stand up? Teachers too, SROs. Okay, look at this room. Out of those people standing up, how many people are still affected by this death today? Raise your hand. Everyone. This is Callum White talk. I don't know that I'll be able to do this one. You guys might have to take over.
Okay.
You guys can sit down.
Okay, so this one is really hitting home today, really hitting home, and understandably so. Okay, I'll do my best as well. Here we go. So this is Callum. He's super adventurous. He had everything going in life, and when I say everything, I mean everything. He played AA hockey. He was in every single sport. His parents provided the world to him. He had a vehicle. He had the top-of-the-line bike, top-of-the-line hockey gear. He was a super busy young man. He had lots of good friends. He had his personality was addictive. People loved who he was, and they all wanted to be around him. And just like here, even later, we still have people in this room who remember who he is, what he was all about, and what an amazing young person that he was. Okay, so even though he's the one who had the addictive personality and that people wanted to be around, he sometimes was able to draw the wrong crowd. And in that, he had some people who he would like to have called his friends that persuaded him to do drugs. And once again, things started off with marijuana. Him and his buddies would go out, smoke dope, get high, lie to parents, and they were just truly up to no good. So to him, he thought these were his friends. But I'm here to tell you, any person who's trying to get you to use drugs of any sort that are not prescribed to you, they're not truly your friend. So his drug use grew, and it grew. Because marijuana wasn't doing it anymore. You know, sit back, chill, relax, wanted more. Slowly looked for harder drugs. And with Callum, they went on to use other drugs. His parents got involved because they loved him from the start. They were there every single day. They brought in Alberta Health Services. They brought in the police. Different authorities, different doctors, you name it. They even put him in PCHAD, which is where police go and apprehend you and put you in a confined area to get help, which is mandated and you can't leave. Everything. We tried everything to help him, and it just wasn't working. So on the night of his death, one of these so-called friends were there, and they were using drugs. And in this case, they were using a drink. And in the drink, it's called lean, and they're trying to get high, and it had codeine in it. Well, unfortunately, this drink that he consumed, the last drink of his life, was laced with carfentanil. He died within seconds. He started vomiting, huge scene. All of those friends, those so-called friends that he had, all disappeared and ran. They left. They knew what was happening and that he was going to die, and they left. And we're going to go back to the saying, everybody is somebody's someone. These are not your true friends. Even though right now you think they are, the friends mean the world to you. We understand, all the adults have been there. But honestly, they're not your real friends if they're getting you to do drugs. Especially in today's day and age, it's not like it was in the 60s or 70s. We didn't have fentanyl and carfentanil and W18 that people are just putting into drugs hoping the best that you didn't die, but getting you extremely addicted so you keep coming back and giving them money. Because that's all drug dealers want, are your money. So now, once again, Callum was loved by everybody, his friends, his parents, teachers. There's a bunch of, I read so many nice things, what teachers had to say about his personality, what an amazing person he was. Don't be a statistic. Have good friends. And we're gonna go on and talk about what we can do with this. But there's certain things that's called sober buddies. And we'll talk about that. So if you're really going to be a good friend, make sure you are and you're bringing people out. There's a difference between tattling, or like ratting, and telling. When you rat somebody out to police, or to the parents, or the school board, or whoever, your complete intention is to go and get that person in trouble. That's it. That's what a rat does. So for example, when we have rats in the drug world, they go and rat out the other drug dealers to get them out of the way. Get them in trouble, get them arrested, get their drugs seized, and get them out. That's a rat. What happens in the cases of all of these people we talked about today, they're telling. We had people come in and tell, here's somebody in trouble, and they need help getting them out of trouble. That's what a good friend does. Okay? Good friends don't encourage, they don't enable, they won't run away when you're at the worst point in your life. They tell. You call 911, get help, you get a parent, you get an adult, somebody you can talk to, and you tell them to get those people out of trouble. So the next time you're sitting there thinking, I'm not a rat, I don't want to be a rat, rats are to intentionally get people in trouble, and I don't think truly people here at the school, that's what you're looking for. You want to get your friends out of trouble. They're doing something wrong, something that'll hurt themselves or somebody else. Tell somebody, we're here to help. You have school resource officers, we have school counselors, we have school teachers, we have administrators, Alberta Health Services, youth addictions, you name it. Even if it wants to come in anonymous, we'll take it. Help your friends, tell, and get them out of that trouble.
Yeah, and thank you, Constable Jarrett. Just quickly, Callum was and always will be a member of the MMM Storm community. His picture is up in my office, and it will be until I leave here. I am not going to have any of your faces in my office. So, signs of a fentanyl overdose. Okay, it looks very much like someone is suffocating. That's the best way that I can describe it. You have breathing problems, your nails and your lips turn blue, you're choking, you're throwing up, okay, you're making those gurgling sounds, your skin goes cold and clammy, and this unfortunately then leads to death as your organs are shutting down. What to do in the case of an overdose if you see someone. In these parties, guys, look for people that look like they're sleeping it off, okay? In today's world, there's no more, oh, he's, she, they're just sleeping it off. No more of that. If you see someone like that, try and wake them up. Wake them up. If they're not waking up, what's the first thing you do? Call 911, okay? You get an ambulance there. And if you can and you're trained and you have the proper equipment, start giving that person some form of help, okay? You need to get them breathing, you need to get the airflow going, that kind of stuff, all right? But you need to get an ambulance there. Every ambulance in Alberta has a naloxone kit. That person needs to have naloxone, Narcone given to them in 2 minutes, all right? If we get in that window, we might be okay. But again, going back to our chocolate chip cookie analogy, who knows how much was in there? Okay, we need to get these people their help. Now, a lot of students might be wondering, okay, well, if we're calling an ambulance, we're calling 911, there's drugs, youth, that kind of stuff. Well, police are probably going to come with them. Okay? And that's why we have this. This is called the Good Samaritan Act. Okay, it came into place in May of this year. And what this means is that it exempts you from getting arrested for simple possession. So as long as you're not trafficking, that kind of stuff, if there's drugs there, yes, police are going to seize those drugs. We need to test those drugs. We need to take those drugs off the street. But you will not be arrested. We're not coming with 400 pairs of handcuffs and pulling everyone out of there. Okay? If you're released on an order where like a recognizance or a probation order or anything like that gives you, you might be in trouble for a breach, this also exempts you from that. And then further to that, you can't see here, but this word right here is immunity. Okay? For those that called 911 and those that stayed on scene, okay, to help out this person that's suffering. All right? I'll let my partner talk about this.
Okay, so I just want to reiterate what Constable Meyer said. Don't start cleaning up. I guarantee you if you start cleaning up your house parties where there's underage drinking, there's maybe drugs there, it's going to take you more than 2 minutes. Don't start cleaning up, call 911. On top of that, in regards to the naloxone, if it's available in a kit that you have within the household, use it. Don't think twice. Even if it turns out that it's not an opiate overdose, it will not harm the person. So don't hesitate, you administer it. And with that, you still need an ambulance coming. Because what happens is, the naloxone, if you were to have receptors in your body that the opiates would go into, that's the receptor. Think of that as your lock. And then the naloxone is the key. So it goes into those receptors, it turns, and it blocks them off. But what happens is the naloxone is only good for about 15 minutes. So that being said, when it wears off in 15 minutes, the fentanyl or the opiate that's still in the body, it's still there. It's still circulating. So when those receptors become free and the naloxone wears off, all of a sudden, another overdose will happen. So you're going to think, oh, awesome, I gave them naloxone, they're up, they're talking. They're going to crash again within 2 minutes. Probably less because it's already in their body. You need an ambulance to come. Has to come. They have unlimited supply. They have a duty belt like ours, but it's got drugs on it with a whole bunch of naloxone in it. And then they can get that person safely to hospital and clean their system and keep them alive. So even if you give naloxone, ambulance still has to come. Now that being said, you're thinking, okay, so what are police doing about this? It's a huge problem. It's illegal drugs. It's being shipped in from other countries. This is what we did this year. This summer, we had the largest fentanyl bust in Canada, where we seized here with Edmonton Police Service in joint with our alert team, which is a provincial task force. We seized over $4 million worth of drugs, money, and property that were all from a fentanyl production. And this here is some of it. There were 130,000 pills. How many students are in this school, Constable?
Almost 700. 700.
That would do this school and then some. There's approximately 29,000 students that are in high school right now. This covers them and then some. We were able to get those pills off the street. Okay, all the information that we have today, we're giving it to you so you can make an educated choice. Our intentions here aren't to scare you. That's not it at all. We don't want to scare you. We want to make sure that you have the most up-to-date information, factual information that you can have. That way when some opportunity comes up and you're deciding, should I try this or shouldn't I, you know what's going to happen. We're telling you 250 micrograms, 2 granules of salt, about that size, can kill the average size person in less than 2 minutes. We're telling you that. We're not doing it as a joke. We're not making it inflammatory. We had an actual doctor from the U of A who showed us the injections and all. You only have maybe 2 minutes. That's it. So we're giving you the facts. Now what are you going to do with them? If you need more, you can go onto Alberta Health Services website. Sorry, in this room it's hard to see, but it's www.drugsfool.ca. And then some people, I know like myself or my parents, we like to call and actually have a conversation. You can call 811. They will talk to you at any point in time. And they keep stuff up to date. So you can just go onto their website, put in the search engine, fentanyl or any other drug you want to know about, and it'll educate you. Now I just want to go back. I want you to remember that everyone is somebody's someone. This is a brother, a sister, a friend, a niece, a nephew. Everybody has somebody. Keep that in mind. When you know somebody has themselves in trouble, tell somebody and we will help them get out of it. Drug addictions, it's a disease. When people are hooked on drugs, it is impossible to make rational decisions. Help those people. We need the sober buddies, we need the friends out there, we need the family to circle around and provide those supports. We have them. We just need to make sure that if you know something's happening, come and let us know.
Yeah, and really, guys, that's it. But that's the biggest thing. These people that have addictions to drugs, they need help. So if you can't help them, or if this is becoming too overwhelming for you, come to someone here at the school. All right, this is going to be shown to other high schools and other students later on. Go to your SRO, go to your counselors, go to your administration. We're here to help you. But the other thing is, this isn't a drug that is killing just those people that are addicted to drugs. This is those people that first time they go and try something. They go and experiment. And they unfortunately are dying because of this. So thank you for listening. I hope you guys learned something today.
Now I just want to give a big round of applause for the families that shared their stories. So let's do that, hey?